This action proves, if proof were needed, that the Algerian regime sponsors international terrorism.
Yeah, we back. Now, today's going to be a follow-up video to one I dropped the other day entitled, Algeria Shoots Down Mali Military Drone. And in that video, I was discussing a diplomatic incident between the governments of Algeria and Mali. The military in Mali was conducting surveillance along its northern border, and the reason for that is there are certain armed groups, there are certain terrorist groups that have strongholds in the northern section of the country along the border of Mali and Algeria. And for the past couple years, there's been tension simmering between Mali and Algeria because there are certain terrorist groups in the northern section of the country that use Algeria as a rear base. Now, what is a rear base? A rear base is like a safe zone, basically a safe space that you can run to without the fear of being attacked. Due to the fact that these terrorists are situated along the border, what they do is they run over the border to Algeria whenever the temperature gets too hot. So Algeria is like their safe space where they can rest, where they can regroup, where they can get medical attention, where they can stockpile weapons, where they can plan and launch future attacks. So they go in and out over the border, right? Go into Mali, launch an attack, and then when the temperature gets too hot or they take too many losses, they run back to Algeria to regroup. And the reason why Algeria is like a safe space for them is because when they cross the border into Algeria, the military in Mali does not have the authorization to chase them down in Algerian territory unless the government in Algeria gives them that authorization. So they cannot go over the border and pursue them into Algerian territory because Algeria is a sovereign state with its own territorial integrity that must be respected. Now, fast forward to a few days ago. There was a military drone that belonged to the Malian Air Force that was conducting surveillance over an area that was deemed as a stronghold, as a hotbed for terrorist groups. Now, if you take a look up on the screen, it was this drone right here, this Turkish Akinci drone that was a recent arrival to the Malian Air Force. And recently, it was this same drone that was used to kill 8 terrorist leaders back in December, right? So 8 terrorist leaders got extinguished with this very drone in the northern section of the country. That was a major victory for Mali, a terrible loss for the terrorists. And now, fast forward to today, the Algerian government has taken responsibility for shooting that drone out of the sky. Now, if you ask me, this is simply an open confirmation that the Algerian government is openly collaborating with certain terrorist groups. Take a look up on the screen. The Algerian Ministry of Defense says that an armed drone that had flew 2 kilometers into Algerian airspace has been shot down last night. The drone is most likely an Akinci drone of the Malian Air Force, which was active in the Tinzaouatin area. Now, we finally got a response. We finally got a response from the government in Mali, not only from the government in Mali, but the AES as a whole, as one block, has responded to this act of aggression. Now, let's get into it. Let's get into the response from the government in Mali. They said this: the government regrets to inform the public that on the night of March 31st, a drone belonging to the armed forces of Mali crashed on national territory. The crash was located in an area with the following geographic coordinates. Following this incident, an investigation was immediately opened. From the results of the investigation, the following points are worth mentioning. Communication was lost with the aircraft at a position located on Malian territory. Now, time out. So they're saying that because Algeria claims that the military in Mali, quote unquote, violated their airspace, but Mali is responding and saying that when we lost communication with the aircraft, it was still on national territory. It was not in Algerian airspace. And they're going to further say that it actually crashed and landed on Malian territory. So for it to be violating its airspace and be shot out the sky over your airspace, how come it landed on Malian territory if you claim that it was in your airspace at the time of the crash? Now, anyway, let's continue. The distance between the point where communication with the aircraft was lost and the location of the wreck is 441 meters. These 2 points are all located on the national territory. The last communication transmitted by the drone related to a meeting with high-profile terrorists who are planning attacks. The aircraft fell vertically, which can probably only be explained by hostile action caused by surface-to-air or air-to-air missiles. In order to further the investigation, the Malian authorities asked the Algerian authorities to provide them with the evidence supporting the violation of their airspace by the Malian reconnaissance drone. For 72 hours, there has been no satisfactory response given by the Algerian authorities. The government has now concluded with absolute certainty that the drone of the Malian Air Force was destroyed following a premeditated hostile action by the Algerian government. This decision is based on the following elements. Number 1, The Algerian regime's silence in response to Mali's request and its refusal to cooperate to confirm the responsibility of the regime which fired on the drone, causing it to fall vertically. The precise data of the aircraft's trajectory recorded in the system unambiguously proves that the aircraft never left the airspace of Mali. Furthermore, the point where the drone's connection was broken and the location of the crash are all located on Malian territory. The absurdity of the argument of violating Algerian airspace over 2 kilometers, in other words, how could the drone crash have ended up in Mali, 9.5 kilometers from the borderline, if the aircraft had actually violated Algerian airspace over 2 kilometers? Faced with the gravity of this unprecedented act of aggression in the history of relations between Mali and Algeria, the government condemns with the utmost rigor this hostile, unfriendly, and condescending action by the Algerian authorities, whose head of state recently stated on global television that 90% of Mali's solutions are found in Algeria. Furthermore, this action proves, if proof was needed, that the Algerian regime sponsors international terrorism. Indeed, the destruction of the drone clearly has the effect, if not the goal, of hindering the neutralization of armed groups that have claimed responsibility for terrorist actions. The government, in this unfortunate circumstance, while recalling the content of the press release from January 25th, 2024, and that of Mali's address on the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly, condemns the attitude of the Algerian regime, which in addition to serving as a rear base for terrorists, is today engaging in armed struggle to perpetuate attacks against a neighboring state in order to protect terrorist groups. Now, that was the official statement, official press release by the government in Mali responding to this act of aggression against the Algerian government, the terrorist state known as Algeria. Now, I want to get into another press release. This press release is actually coming from the AES, right? The Alliance of Sahel States, all 3 countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. They put out a statement as a block. They said this: the heads of state of the AES regret the destruction of a drone that belonged to the Republic of Mali, following a hostile act by the Algerian regime on the night of March 31st. The heads of state of the AES recall that an application of his decision dated on December 22nd, 2024, it decided, among other measures, to make the Confederal space a single theater of military operations. Consequently, the heads of state of the AES considered the destruction of the drone of the Malian Air Force to be an act of aggression targeting all member states of the AES, as well as a deceitful way of promoting terrorism and contributing to the destabilization of the region. This incident is all the more serious as the conclusions of the investigation show that the destruction of the drone prevented the neutralization of a terrorist group that was planning terrorist attacks against the AES. Now, time out. That's what I said in my first video. To me, it seemed like the drone was conducting surveillance because they said it was currently conducting surveillance over a stronghold of the terrorists. So it seems that it was about to conduct an operation against the terrorist groups. And it seems that the government in Algeria actually ended up saving the lives of the terrorists, right? They actually saved the lives of the terrorists. They saved the terrorists from mortal danger. So what could that mean except that Algeria is a terrorist state? You're working on behalf of the terrorists. You saved the terrorists from getting extinguished. Now let's continue. The heads of state of the AES strongly condemn, in the strongest terms, this irresponsible act by the Algerian government in violation of international law and contrary to historical relations and fraternal relations between Algeria and the citizens of the AES. In addition, the heads of state of the AES have decided to recall for consultations the ambassadors of the member states accredited to Algeria. The heads of state of the AES, on the one hand, remind the Algerian government that the eradication of terrorism remains an existential struggle for the AES. On the other hand, we demand that it adopts a constructive stance and finally contributes to the promotion of peace and security in the region. Finally, the heads of state of the AES reassure the populations that the defense and security forces remain fully mobilized to ensure the security and defend the integrity of the Confederal space. Now, I'm about to jump into a clip. Basically, I believe this clip was released today. An official statement from the military in Mali speaking on the situation. Run the clip. I'll be right back.
This action proves, if proof were needed, that the Algerian regime sponsors international terrorism. Indeed, the destruction of the drone clearly has the effect, if not the aim, of hindering the neutralization of armed groups that have claimed responsibility for terrorist acts. The transitional government, in this unfortunate circumstance, condemns the attitude of the Algerian regime, which, in addition to serving as a rear base for terrorist groups, is now engaging in armed struggle to carry out aggressions against a neighboring state with the aim of protecting its terrorist supporters. Consequently, in response to this latest provocation by the Algerian regime, the transitional government decides to 1. Prohibit any exit of the borders, summon the Algerian ambassador to protest against the hostility of the Algerian regime. 2. Withdraw immediately from the Joint Staff Committee (CEMOC). 3. File a complaint with international bodies against the Algerian regime for acts of aggression. Also, the transitional government points out that this blatant aggression by the Algerian regime against Mali contradicts the effective participation of the Republic of Mali in the war for Algeria's independence to support the National Liberation Front, FLN. Finally, it asks the Algerian regime, exporter of terrorism, to stop being a threat to regional peace and security, and then to adopt responsible behavior aimed at promoting peace and development.
Yes, it's been confirmed. It's been confirmed. Algeria is a terrorist state. Unfortunately, many of these nations in the northern region of the continent are hostile actors, unfortunately, against the black man. So it is what it is, man. We know how we're treated inside these countries. So it's no surprise to us that how they act on a macro level and a micro level. But anyways, I'm just going to put this out into the atmosphere just in case anybody important is listening. Close the airspace with Algeria. Yeah, I think that's a good measure, right? I think closing the airspace with Algeria, I think even if necessary, cutting off diplomatic relations with Algeria altogether. You know, I think that once somebody has been hostile towards you to this degree by harboring terrorists and now engaging in armed military action against your military, I think at this point, it's too many red lines have been crossed. And I think that go ahead and close that airspace and, if necessary, cut off diplomatic relations altogether. But anyways, man, it's your boy Number Card. That's Elaine back in the ability. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the channel. Album out now. Sahel 1816. Go to my playlist section. And I'm gone. Peace.
Told me she loved me and said that it's real. So independent, ain't signing no deal. Feel like a king and I'm up at Cap Henry. I'm in the citadel, top of the hill. Trying to run up and we let off a cannon. Secret location, I'm keeping it sealed. You ain't retaliate, Franco Medina. Came to the country and he got killed. You ain't retaliate, Rafi Mans. Thought you was loyal, thought you was real. Didn't even want to come pick up the body. Had your man locked up, he died in the cell. Up at the palace, I'm throwing a party. Right on the south and I'm giving them hell. And my little shorty, she looking exotic. African features, she casting a spell. Run to the check like I work on my fitness. Wake up each morning and handle my business. Said that she love me, she want my genetics. Wanna get married and make it official. Wanna get married and have my babies. Up in the city, I'm riding Mercedes. Up in the city, they treat me like royalty. Feeling like Dolph, talking about lords. Spreading my wings and I had to get fly. Up at the top, an incredible vibe. Came from the bottom, I'm up in the sky. Gave one look and said, baby, you fine. Wake up each morning and handle my business. They just be talking, you see me, I live. Ride on my enemies, sounding like thunder. 1804, got that shit in my spirit. 1804 when I step in the building. 1804, and that's word of my mother. Rock my women and die for my brother. Never gonna fall when I'm deep under pressure. Tell them we back and they better accept it. Move like a king, every step is divine. Ride on my enemies with no exception. Taking revenge and I'm taking what's mine. Pour up a drink and it's time that we toast. Watching my back, keep my enemies close. Only the family, I stick with my brothers. Cannon's position outside of the coast. Heavy artillery for the protection. Move like a general, stick to the code. Feel like a king when I'm up in the north. Beautiful women, they trying to get chose. Launch an invasion all over the south. Capture the capital with all my woes. Look at my energy and my demeanor. Dripping that ice and that's head to my toes. Lately I'm flexing all on the Americans. Flexing my muscle on missing my road. Just got a carriage just coming from London. Boy, that shit cash, I ain't taking no loans. Boy, that shit cash, that's fresh on the boat. Enemy know I got millions in gold. Enemy know I got choppers and cannons. How did I do it? They can't understand it. How did I do it? It's cause I'm relentless. Call me King Harry, my name is cemented. Call me King Harry, I'm up in the palace. Call me King Harry, I'm raising the status.